Okay, let's look at number 11. Two boys who live 14 miles apart start at noon to walk toward each other at rates of 3 and 4 miles per hour respectively, and how many hours will they meet? Okay. So here we go. I'm going to draw a box. I know my formula is D equals RT. I have my box. 3 and 4 miles. And how many hours will they meet? Okay. So I have two boys. We'll say boy number 1 and boy number 2. It didn't give me any names. Unless you wanted to name them something, go ahead. They're 14 miles apart. Rate times time. Okay, the rate of one boy is 3 miles per hour. The other boy is 4 miles per hour. And how many hours will they meet? I forgot to put distance on here. Sorry about that. Okay, so I don't know the time. The distance is rate times time, so this is going to be 3t. This boy is going to be 4t. Okay? Now let's look at this. The distance, it says they're 14 miles apart, right? So it has to equal 14. So let's add my distance. 3t plus 4t equals 14, because they're 14 miles apart. I know the distance. Okay, now let's solve it. 3t and 4t is 7t equals 14. Divide by 7, t equals 2. So they will meet in 2 what? 2 hours. I like to abbreviate. So my answer is 2 hours. Did drawing the picture help you? Alright, now I want you to go to 13, and I want you to stop the tape, and I want you to do number 13 and then compare it with mine. Okay? So go ahead and stop the tape. Okay, let's look at number 13. Mr. Black leaves Chicago at 8 a.m. and drives north on the highway at an average speed of 50 miles per hour. Mr. Smith leaves Chicago at 8:30 and drives along the same highway at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. At what time will Mr. Smith overtake Mr. Black? Hint, let T be Mr. Smith's time in hours. Let T plus a half be Mr. Black's time, since he left 30 minutes later. And he's saying a half because it's a half hour. So what they're doing is they're suggesting turning it into hours, which would be the easiest way to do it. Okay, so let me put my chart here. I noticed I have not been making my charts big enough. And it wants to know at what time. So I need rate, time, and distance. So I need 4 boxes. Okay. Mr. Black and Mr. Smith. Mr. Black and Mr. Smith. I have rate, time, and distance. Now, it told me to let T be Mr. Smith's time, so T, and let T plus 1/2 be Mr. Black's time. So T plus 1/2, it told me that, right? Alright. Mr. Black leaves Chicago at 8 o'clock and drives north on highway at an average speed of 50 miles per hour. So my rate is 50. Alright. Mr. Smith leaves Chicago at 8:30 and drives along the same highway at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. At what time will Mr. Smith overtake Mr. Black? Okay, distance we know is rate times time. So I can do 50 times t plus 1/2. Rate times time, this is going to be 60t. Okay? Alright. Mr. Black leaves Chicago, drives north. Mr. Smith leaves Chicago, drives on the same highway. At what time will they overtake Mr. Black? What does that mean, overtake? What time will they meet? Right? So what I'm going to do is set them equal to each other. Right? Either that or subtract them and equal 0, whichever way you want to do it. I'm going to set them equal to each other. 50 times the quantity t plus 1/2 equals 60t. Okay? Okay, so I have 50t plus, okay, now remember we're multiplying. Half of 50 is 25. If you divide it by 2, you're going to get 25 equals 60t. Okay, which terms are alike? These are, so I have to get rid of this one. So minus 50t, minus 50t, 25 equals 10t. So divide them by 10. Okay, and I'm going to get 2.5 equals t. Now be careful. It wants to know at what time. I know it's going to take 2.5 hours from the time Smith left. What time did Smith leave? Let's look at it. Mr. Smith left at 8:30. Okay, now T was Mr. Smith. That's why I looked at what time did Mr. Smith leave. It said he left at 8:30, right? It took 2.5 hours. So we have to add, what is half an hour? Half an hour is 30. So let's add this. 0, 3 plus 3 is 6, 8 plus 2 is 10. Now we can't have 10:60. 60 means it's another hour, right? So this means 11 o'clock. So my answer is 11 o'clock. Okay? How did we do? Did you get that? It wasn't hard. We just had to we had to stop and think our way through it. Okay? Go to number 15. I want you to stop the tape and do 15 and then compare it with mine. Okay? So go ahead and do number 15. Okay, Tom took a trip of 1,020 miles. He traveled by train at 55 miles an hour and the same number of hours by plane at 285 miles per hour. How many hours did the trip take? Okay. It looks like I need to put the train and the plane, right? Okay. Alright. So I need the train and the plane. Okay. And I need rate, time, and distance. Okay. He traveled by train at 55 miles an hour. He traveled by plane at 285 miles an hour. And he said the same number of hours, so I'm just going to make these t. Distance we know is rate times time, so 55t and 285t. Okay, now what is my equation? It says he traveled 1,020 miles. So my distance has to equal 1,020 miles. So 1,020 equals 55t plus 285t. Did you get that far? Okay. If you add 285 plus 55, 285 and 55, 10, 9 plus 5 is 14, 340, 340t. Okay, and divide them by 340. Okay, 1,020 divided by 340. Go ahead and use your calculator. What is it? I guess you already did it. You're waiting on me. 1,020 divided by 340 equals 3. Okay. Now wait a minute. Let's look at this. This says that t is 3. So he's on the train for 3 hours. He was on the plane for 3 hours. So how long was the trip? If he was on the train for 3 hours and the plane for 3 hours, the trip was 6 hours, right? Because 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay? Did you get that? Okay, remember, draw a picture to solve the problems. Alright, go ahead and review this lesson and finish the problems.